One thing I kind of wanted to talk, like I thought about topics that we could talk about. One thing I wanted to ask you was like, now that I think about it, it might be a little bit weird, but I don't
Hmm.
know. But do you want to talk about like, um, you can say no, but like the experience of like having a period? I don't know why that came into my brain this morning. It's like we can talk about our periods and paint. We don't have to do.
We totally can do that.
I don't know why like I was thinking about it because it's really not something I think about. Like, actually, no, I do. I think about my cycle constantly.
Hmm. So, what do you want to talk about specifically? Because we can take this conversation anywhere. It's a room, like it's literally a blank canvas.
Holy shit. What's that thing called when like if you look at a blank canvas, it's like it's worse than having something on the canvas or something? Like it's more pressure to put something down.
I don't know. Is there a name for that?
I don't know. Because you were telling me about it. You were saying like sometimes when you have was it you?
It might have been because it's not weird for me that concept, but I can't remember what it was specifically. I had like kind of like a moment that I thought about this more seriously, like this phenomenon of like having a blank canvas and just freaking out.
Yeah.
But I can't remember if there's like a specific name for that.
Well, whatever that name is, it's it's very fucking real.
Yes. Like stage fright for visual artists.
Yeah. Um, yeah, it's not like I don't think we need to talk about anything specific or anything. I wanted to know like what your first period was like or like what your conception of it was and if you think that because I think it's a pretty revolutionary thing
Hmm.
to have cycles like that and we've just never really outright talked about it even though this is kind of like a feminine podcast.
Yeah, it's funny because I think last week I was thinking about my first years of having a period
Yeah.
because I realized it's been, oh my God, 16 years since I had my first period. So it's been 16 years of living with that.
Wow.
And I remember the first like 3 to 4 years, I guess, it was a nightmare because I remember clearly just crying in the bathroom, thinking, oh my God, I have to live my life like this. Because it was such a pain. Not just like, it's not about like any kind of stigma specifically, but it was just so much work, you know? And until I figured out like what was the most comfortable way for me to deal with it was just like this, clumsy person trying to do something and not doing it right,
Aw,
like the
little
first steps of a
Carolina.
kid,
Yeah.
And I truly like it was a moment that I cried because I couldn't understand how some things happened, and it was like I
Why do
can't
I
live my
bleed?
life with this. I can't wait until I'm 50 to get rid of
Oh my
this.
God, that's so true. Sometimes when you think about that,
Yeah, but honestly, seeing my mom go through her menopause, I I think I'm kind of glad that I am in this part of my life, like this
hmm
hormonal part of my life. Menopause is rough.
dude, what's it like after menopause? What are women
She's
like?
in heaven. She's in heaven. Like, this is another woman, you know? She went through hell with menopause, and her menopause lasted, I think, the rough moment of it, like 4 years, 5 years, which
Wow.
is a long time. Yeah.
Holy shit.
And she was talking with her doctor, and the doctor said, like, you had, based on your hormonal levels and the things that you say that you go through since you're like 20 something, like to 30, you probably she was probably going towards menopause when she was like 20 something to 30, which happens. I have a
I
friend in,
know,
yeah,
but holy
I have a
shit.
friend in university. She was, I think, a year older than me, and she was taking hormonal supplements because she was in menopause. Like, she was not like my mom that was like kind of smoothly going through it. She
Yeah.
was heavily going through it.
What happens when your body does that so young?
I
Like,
have no idea. She said that she had like to take this hormone. It was like very expensive, and she said that it would mess up with her hormones in a way that even if she took um contraceptives, she would probably get pregnant anyways. So she would have to rely on physical ones, you know. And she was very like upset about all this because like, I don't know like how that affects your mood because honestly like having what I think is a regular kind of cycle is already very intense
Yeah.
sometimes, you know.
Yeah.
But to be fair, like I really feel is a kind of like a fantastic scary experience. But I don't know, like I feel I feel that I'm just grateful for whatever is gonna come along, you know? Like now this is what I'm living, like this hormonal moment of my life. Later is gonna be another thing, but I think I'm just glad.
Yeah.
You know, I'm just glad that
Like,
I
fuck, you
got
have
to see
periods.
my mom. Yeah, I got to see my mom go through so much and just like having a little bit of an enjoyment with you know my own cycle because now I know more or less how to handle it and just kind of like live with it friendly instead of just fighting it and then coming to a moment where everything like goes insane and then after you're 50 then you're free from it but like you know what I mean.
That's like so much of your life that you're in resistance to your
Yeah,
own period.
exactly, that's how I feel like I don't know they would just make peace with the fact that you have to deal with that anyways.
Yeah. I don't think I've ever really been in resistance. Like, I got it when I was 11.
Mm-hmm.
And I remember my mom being like, "Oh my God, you're a woman." And I was like, "What the fuck does that mean?" I don't know like what you want me to do now. Like, do I start cooking? Do I go get a degree?
Yeah.
Like, what?
Oh my god, we had such a similar reaction to it. I remember I saw this. It was like a kids cartoon. I don't know, like a TV show, and the kid was learning about puberty. And he was asking his father, "When I get puberty, do I have to leave home and just get a job and just have my own house?" Because he was like, you know, like literally a kid.
Yeah.
And I never really thought about it, but at that point, I was like, "Oh my god, is that true?"
Yeah.
When my period came, I was like, "Do I have to be what right now?" Like I was a kid 2 minutes ago.
Yeah. Yeah, and that's the fucking weirdest experience.
Yes.
Because it's like, it's not like your first period is like that intense or heavy,
Uh huh.
but it's still like,
I think it's very shocking.
it's shocking.
Yeah, because I don't know, like for male bodies, it's like something that happens smoothly in a way. Like it happens in a rush, but it doesn't really have like a very distinctive event. You know, that's
Right.
like you bleeding. Like it's a
Right.
very remarkable thing to remember.
Yeah.
And to mark the moment that okay, now it's official. You know?
Yeah.
It's just something that happens and just like smoothly, you know, changes your body. But like for women too, like it doesn't really happen suddenly, but to have that visual, very graphic, remarkable moment, it's tough. It's very shocking.
It's, I think it's also like funny because your whole childhood, people are like protecting you from things.
Mm-hmm.
You know, you're not allowed to watch movies that are gory. You're
Uh-huh.
not allowed to hear about sex. You're not allowed to use bad words.
Mm-hmm.
And then all of a sudden, one day you go into the bathroom and there's blood everywhere.
Yeah.
And it's like, it's the most like face to face you've come with reality.
Yeah.
And yet no one really prepared you. Like, I don't know about if you guys had sex ed where you were.
Yeah, like with biology teachers, I would, you know, teach how the body works.
Yeah. So like you learned about different parts of your cycle and stuff.
Not that specifically. Like, how do you feel like every week going through a cycle? I think the closest thing to that was just like teaching when they were teaching about, but that was more in high school, um, how to prevent pregnancy and diseases. And they talked about like all methods there. And there's one, I don't know, I don't remember exactly the name, but it's like when you count in the calendar the days and try to figure it out like when you're fertile and when you're not.
Like tracking your cycle.
Yeah, yeah, there's a name for that in Portuguese, but
Wow.
Yeah, it's like a nickname. It's not like a scientific name.
Oh, okay.
But and that was like I think the closest thing, to like how to have a direct relationship with the moments on your cycle. Of course, there was like a scientific perspective of that, like how long does it take for your uterus to recover and then ovulation and things like this. But that was like the only moment, like how to relate to that, like how to think your life based on that.
I see. How to fit it into like your reality.
Yeah. Because honestly, it's just like, okay, digestion. Like it happens and you have absolutely no idea what's going on.
Yeah. That's pretty much how we were taught that.
Oh, okay, yeah.
Like sex ed for us wasn't a biology class. It was more like they separate the boys and girls.
Oh.
And they take each of you into a different room and they talk.
No, it was like entire classroom, everybody together.
Yeah, see, that's so much better because the way they did it for us was so fucking weird. And it was like after sex ed, the boys would come back to the classroom and we would all just be sitting together like we just learned about each other's private parts.
It's really awkward because like I remember clearly, I think the most intense moment of like education in that sense was like in high school. And I remember it was kind of like a funny moment for everybody because everybody were friends, like we were friends in general, like in the classroom.
Yeah.
And people would ask questions and it was like almost like a funny thing everybody was doing together.
I see.
It was very light and very like the teacher that taught us that, he was also a doctor. He was a I don't remember the name of that, but like he
gynecologist maybe.
Yeah, and also that take care of pregnant women.
Oh, that's a
obstetric. I don't know the name. I'm trying to like make it up based on the Brazilian word.
I'm trying to remember that episode of Grey's Anatomy.
Well, we know what you're talking. You graduated in Grey's Anatomy school.
I have all the knowledge on medicine.
There was a guy in Brazil that went to a hospital and grabbed like a code and things and started like treating patients.
Are you fucking kidding me?
Yeah, he was arrested.
Well, yeah, I hope so.
Well, yeah.
He just walk into. Well, was he doing it well at least?
He didn't do anything very like specific. He just released some patients that shouldn't.
Oh no! He's like, okay, you're free.
I don't know if it was like yeah, exactly. It was not like, I don't think it was like a very like, I don't know, someone was dying from cancer and he was like, okay, go home. But like probably just lighter stuff, but he still.
So he broke into a hospital and the first thing he did was send people home.
Yeah, exactly. Very professional of him. You're done with the treatment. I think it looked good for me, so go back home. Move on with your life.
That guy's just doing God's work. Sometimes you be in the hospital for no fucking reason, bitch. And then he's like frustrated with like the wait times or something.
Yeah.
Like his wife needs surgery and he's like, okay, I'll take matters into my own hands. Free up some beds right now.
Yeah.
But anyway, so the period thing.
Yeah, coming back to that.
What were we talking about?
I guess how we were thought to deal with it.
Yeah, because it's so different from the reality of how you deal with it.
Yeah, it is. It totally is. I remember, I think it was like, I don't know, like the first periods I got, it was not like the first, I think, but the first year.
Yeah.
And we were going to a barbecue in like a family barbecue, and I was wearing a white skirt. And my mom was like, are you sure you want to do that? And I was like, yeah, like why? What's the problem? She's like, it's not a good idea. But she haven't said anything like why it wasn't a good idea.
Were you on
because for me, I didn't have that experience yet, of saying like, yeah, better a black pants,
Yeah.
But yeah, she was like warning me without clearly warning me.
Yeah.
I changed, but I just understood that way in the future.
You were probably like, damn, I guess this outfit isn't good.
Yeah. No, I understood the message that it was about my period, but I couldn't really understand why,
I see.
was like, it's not like something is gonna happen.
Yeah.
It could. I learned.
Yes.
I learned my lesson.
If it
could
can,
happen.
it will.
Yeah. It probably will.
I had a teacher in grade 7 who like she was so sweet. She was my English teacher.
Hmm.
And she was one of those teachers that you could easily lie to, which sucks. But like as
Like
a
very
kid,
specific.
well, yeah, because when you're a kid, you're a fucking riot. So like the way you classify teachers is like, who can I lie to? If I want to go home, or maybe that was just me. I don't know. I didn't.
Well, yeah, I never really thought about that anybody.
Who can I lie to?
Yeah, like what? But okay, not judging.
Well,
I'm just trying to understand, really.
I'm truly judging. I just want.
It's just a doubt.
I just didn't want to be in school, and all these people had opinions about it, and like they would like call home, and I'm like, if I'm 13 years old, bitch, you're 13, sit the fuck down and eat your Fruit Loops. But I was like, I'm 13, so if I want to go home and do it there, I should be able to.
It's my right as a human being.
My right. But this teacher was really sweet, so she would like always, she wouldn't question me too much.
Mm-hmm.
But one time I remember like she was teaching and there was like she had bled through her pants.
Mm-hmm.
And that was a moment that I think defined like for me like what I think of my period, because I never would have thought of it as something I was embarrassed of.
Yeah.
But I didn't go up to her and go, hey, you're bleeding.
Yeah.
I just let it happen. And I've lived with that my whole life. I know everyone else saw it too, but like, damn, Sal, you should have said something.
Oh my god, yes. It's
And-
so weird. Yeah, keep going.
It was pretty much done, but I was just gonna say like that's kind of like the shame part of it.
Yeah, totally. And I really feel that for me, I was never really somebody that would be ashamed of much. When I got my period, it was like, okay, I got my period, move on. And I remember like before that, like seeing my mom having her period and being like, what's going on? Like, what's happening? And she would explain to me like what was going on, never really in a objective way, but still.
Not a direct way.
Yeah, it was like, oh, when you grow up, it's gonna happen to you too. Like, okay, what does it mean?
Yeah.
Why are you bleeding? You should go to the hospital or something.
Kind of terrifying to hear.
Yeah.
That as a kid.
But honestly, like my way to deal with it was like, oh, okay.
All right, I guess I'll find out.
I got like one more adventure. But so yeah, like I had my period and everything, and I guess like slowly I was being thought of ways to deal with it that was kind of like shameful and like just don't
Hush,
be
hush.
so open about it.
Yeah.
So if you're gonna grab your tampons, you should be secretive about it. So you should be very discreet. Your boys should never know, because then, oh my god. And I remember just feeling very anxious when I had to change my tampons in the middle of, I don't know, school. And how am I gonna do that? Like, do I hide it in my pocket, or do I like, how do I manage that?
Yeah.
And then I remember one day, I don't know, like, I don't know how growing up here was, but in Brazil it was like a mess. So we always have fun and like laugh at each other all the time at any cost, which sometimes lead to traumatic stuff. But we always trying to deal with this with, you know, a little bit of light mood.
Yeah.
But I remember there was this moment where guys and girls, they were kind of like going through each other's stuff and making fun of each other. You know, like as it was like a friends group kind of a thing. It was not like a school thing.
Like,
it was just like we were friends, you know.
Yeah.
We had the intimacy to do so.
I'm like, damn, Brazil enforcing backpack checks like elementary school.
It's not like that. I'm making it sound very bad. But we were friends. It was like a group of friends doing like just picking on each other. And I remember this when it happened to this girl and she had like tampons in her backpack.
Yeah.
And there's like, oh my god, she had tampons in her backpack. And I was like, okay, like big deal.
Yeah.
But it was kind of a surprise because I think sometimes what happens to each gender moments is so hidden from one another, even though like in our schools generally is a very group conversation, but in the same way, like there's kind of like a mystery, and I think it comes from home a lot, you know.
Totally.
Like dads deal with guys, moms deal with girls when they deal with them, and it's very like secretive. And I guess like for the guys at the moment, it was almost like unknown thing. Not that they didn't know, but they didn't know for sure. If the girls were going through her periods and dealing with puberty, because we didn't have like changing voices and things like this going on.
Right.
But I think he was kind of fascinated. He was kind of like, oh my god, I know a person that menstruates. It was almost like a grown-up thing, I think. And I remember his reaction so clearly. It's so funny because it's like a very like random moment, but I really remember he's like, oh my god, she had tampons. I was like, yeah, girls have that,
Yeah.
And he was fascinated. I was like, oh my god, she's such a grown-up.
Like the first thing you would tell your friend if she came to school and was like, yo, I got my period yesterday, you'd be like, oh my god, you can have a baby now. And it's like they're 12.
Yeah, but my reaction was, oh my god, I have a baby now.
Yeah, fuck that.
Also, before my period and everything happened, before knowing exactly how things worked, I knew that babies had something to do with men and women having a relationship with something.
Yeah.
And I remember I had my first kiss and I was like, oh my god, I'm pregnant. I swear God, I have like psychological pregnancy for at least 2 days.
I gotta drop out of school.
Yes. Right. And I was like, what am my mom gonna say? And I was having like serious like anxiety. I was having like this headache and I would sleep all day and thinking like, oh my god, I feel in my belly something's going on.
It must be ready to come out. When is it gonna start kicking?
Oh my god, it was such a traumatic thing, but it's kind of funny when you think about it.
Yeah, no, it totally is hilarious. Just how little we were taught, and then how much we had to learn. I don't know.
Yeah,
like it's just so clear when you have these conversations.
Yes.
When you have your first kiss and you think
you're navigating adulthood, like it's the same thing. It's to this day.
It is.
I remember a moment, I think it was almost like when I was finishing university or like after that a little bit, that I had this longing for an older person to just sit down with me and talk about how life works.
Dude, yes, me too.
And I would expect, like, I would have sort of these conversations with like teachers, like professors and stuff, because I would never really go to my parents for it, Yeah. But I was just like expecting an older person, with like 50 years older probably, to just sit down with me casually and say, okay, let's talk about this, because it's fucking rough. Yeah. And I know you're going through a lot, and I was just hoping, for like community work.
Yeah, some
in
guidance.
That sense. Yeah, like totally. Help me out. I'm struggling here.
Yeah, it's pretty wild that they don't do that for young girls.
And men too. For like young people in general, like deal with it yourself. And then they throw only expectations of things you must,
the audacity.
Do. Yeah, and you have absolutely no idea how to figure that out. It's just such an unfair game, honestly.
Totally.
I'm pissed.
Yeah. They turn feminist in one conversation.
Yeah.
But totally, I agree with that. And like, the same thing goes for like, I think in ancient cultures they used to do this. Like for men, they'd be like, okay, this is how you treat a woman. This is how you court a woman. Yeah. This is how you provide for a woman. And then the women would teach the younger girls, this is how you manage your emotions and you deal with your cycle. Mm-hmm. And it's like all of a sudden, as soon as I don't know when.
Yeah.
It's like, fuck that, I guess. We just not gonna have conversations about expectations within a couple.
Yeah, or anything. Like anything. I really feel sometimes like I think I can't remember which social researcher was that, but like he was saying that maybe like 100 years ago, we still have those very specific, roles in society, and how to like what to expect for life and what is expected of you. And in a way, that was a little bit healthier than what we have today of like, you can do whatever you want, but that comes with no conversation. That comes with no instructions or at least help or connection of like dialogue.
Totally.
You just have to figure it out, and then it's a mess,
Yeah.
And you grow up not knowing how to deal with life. I'm not saying that having everything figured out is freedom itself. I don't really think it is, but like
some guidance would be nice.
Yeah, exactly. Like some conversation, you know?
Yeah, I'm not asking for much.
Yeah.
I just want to know why my pussy's bleeding.
Is that too much to ask? I don't think so.
It's like it's a part of me. I feel like I should have it figured out.
Yeah.
But
it's totally unfair.
Yeah, it is.
I never really feel like I don't know, I feel that it was pretty smart dealing with things for myself, but at the same time it's just like I think the part that bothers me is the lack of care.
Yeah.
You know, like you see a kid going through that and saying nothing. Like,
yeah.
Do you love me? I guess we're supposed to. I know I'm doing a fair job here, but like it doesn't really mean that you don't have to say anything, you know?
Oh, yeah. Yeah.
It's kind of I don't know, like I think what bothers me the most is the lack of connection and the lack of care, you know, in consideration, I think.
Totally. Yeah, that's so true. Especially like as someone that has lived life for like even at this age, if I had a kid, like I would totally want to talk about this because I've gotten over like my shame and like feeling any type of way about periods. I don't, you know? So it's kind of confusing to me why so many female adults when I was a kid weren't in a comfortable place.
Yeah.
Maybe it's just I have some privilege and my culture allows me to be a little bit more expressive regarding my body. But at the same time, it's like, shit, you know, like, why are we so in resistance to it?
Yeah, I totally get that. And also, I really feel that everybody, like, women in general, was taught to be so shameful and so, like, a part of society in a way when they go through that. That it's kind of funny to me how, I don't know, like, a kid grows up into 11 and have absolutely no idea what's going on with her mom every month for 11 years.
That's so true.
You know, it's such like a hidden thing that it's a surprise, which is weird for me. Because honestly, like lately I've been in this process of like giving myself more room to feel whatever I'm feeling, especially when I am in my period. Because like I just want to sit down and just like think about things and just feel things and just, you know, have a moment with myself.
Yeah.
And I don't think you necessarily need to have a very explainable conversation with a kid when the time comes. If you really have a healthy and also open in you know your house or like open relationship with a period, they're gonna see how it works through life. And then when it comes to the point where it's their turn, it's not gonna be like this monster that comes out of nowhere, you know? It's just something yeah, it's just the time came from them, you know?
Totally.
And I think it's just like smoothly showing the reality of stuff instead of having this hidden to a point where it becomes a completely reality shock when it happens, you know?
This is so true. I totally agree.
Yeah. I see that probably, I don't know, like how, I never really talked about it with my mom too much, but I feel that lately she's been more in tune with her cycles in general, especially because menopause is such a rough moment that it's not like having a period and feeling cramps. It's like it changes your brain, it changes your mood, it changes your sleep, it changes everything. Like, oh my god, it's like ripping almost your soul, everybody, I guess. Like it's really intense.
Dude, I bet.
Yeah, and I think it just makes you realize that your body, you're a part of your body. Like it's not like your brain and your ideas and your values or something that it's not affected by it, you know?
Yeah.
I think it becomes pretty evident. Which is a shame to get to that point to realize
50
this.
years, yeah.
But at least she got there.
Yeah.
And I feel that maybe if it was, you know, with that mentality that she has today, I think my education around it would be a little bit more smooth and less shameful and less, you know, and also the moment we live. Like I think it's more okay to talk about these things today than it was like 1996.
Yeah, and like if you think of it, like our moms were actually kind of robbed of their womanhood a little when it
Mm-hmm.
comes to that. Like
Yeah.
it's wild, especially because like I'm huge into like I'm just gonna check if it's still recording.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. So I'm huge into like esoteric stuff,
Yeah.
and period blood apparently is like, I mean, scientifically has like stem cells. You
Yeah.
know, it's healed. Like
Iron, a lot of things. It's
yeah,
good for plants.
yeah. We can literally revive your plants with it. It's
Yeah.
people used to drink it because it literally can heal. I don't think I could ever drink it,
Yeah. I
but
met people that did. I met couples that did,
whoa,
which was really surprising thing to me because honestly, like I really understand that we change a lot culturally for many reasons, but I
it's a
think,
huge change.
yeah, I really think that is not necessary to really revive every single thing to make sure you're rooting yourself to something
Right.
bigger and more sensitive, like there's other ways to do it,
Yeah.
but they
You
did
do
it.
you. Yeah.
Yeah.
You do you, but I don't, yeah, like
It's
even
surprising.
even like as a face mask, like maybe
Oh.
one day, but yeah, apparently like is very rejuvenating.
Mm.
I'm still in resistance to a lot of it, obviously, because we were also raised with resistance.
Yeah.
But knowing how precious it is, and even just thinking about like the fact that it literally exists so that we give birth. It's
Yeah.
the most important thing ever to the
Mhm.
human species.
Mhm.
And yet it's still like culturally not appreciated. Like women
Yeah.
women aren't appreciated as much as we could be.
Totally, totally. And I don't mean like I feel the same way and I don't feel that like other people should appreciate us. It's just
Right.
that we could appreciate ourselves,
Yeah.
or just have like the privacy to do so, or
Yeah,
they the power to do so, you
yeah,
know?
yeah, exactly. Like
It's not about you
knowledge.
giving me like worshiping me, but it's just
Yeah.
like leave me alone.
Yeah. At least tell me what I'm going through. And
Yeah.
like even that, like our own
Hmm.
the value that we can have for ourselves and our body and our
Yeah.
presence through our period. Like did you tell me that in like 4 days a week, 4 days a month in some European countries you get work off?
Yeah.
Was that okay?
Yeah. It's like
That's
3 days a month.
incredible.
Yeah. I think it's in Spain. I'm not sure, but I think it is Spain.
Amazing. We like that should be a thing everywhere.
Totally, totally should. Um, it's I don't know, like I feel that we come to a point socially, in a very global way to accommodate everybody's needs, but at the same time we're lacking so much that's basic, just like the need to have maybe a longer break for lunch, instead of having like 15 minutes. Like that's insane.
I know.
Like things that are so basic. Okay, I'm gonna change the structure of everything to accommodate everybody's needs, but at the same time, we are neglecting the basic ones.
Yeah, yeah,
We
yeah.
want to look good for the picture, but we're not really caring, essentially, like because we care, it's just because we think that we should,
Yeah,
you know.
totally.
That bothers me a little bit. Um, I really think it's important to address other people's needs, but at the same time, like it's because it comes from a place of caring about what people need and not because you feel that it's politically correct to do so, you
Yes.
know? But anyways, I there's a thing in Brazil that would say that it's planting your moon.
Planting your moon?
Yeah, you use your period in your plants, like in a plant specifically. Like you can use in many, but like the idea is that you have almost like this specific plant for planting your moon because the period is in relationship with the moon, and that's your way to create a relationship with it, like a direct one, you know?
Interesting. It could be like
Yeah,
any plant.
I guess so. Yeah, I think it could be any plant.
That's really cool.
And people say the plant becomes more vital and beautiful,
Okay.
and it's almost like a ritual thing, just giving back the blood to the earth in a
Yes.
way.
I've heard doing that by itself, just putting your blood like back in mud or something like outside
Hmm.
is yeah, like it connects you to nature better, and it's apparently like really good for like your mental health. I don't know exactly how that would work. Like how
Yeah,
could that be connected? But at the same time, like everything's so much more connected than we like to acknowledge in
I
our
think it's just
society.
like if you do something different, it's gonna make you feel different. It's not really like this magical transformation. It's just like the tiny little act that's gonna make you feel a little bit different.
Like you feel like you're giving back to Mother Nature, so it's
Yeah, unconsciously, I think it is. It's
Mhm.
just like is this the thing that we were talking earlier about, like how the environment makes you impact your mental perception of life in a very subtle way. And I
Mhm.
think like when I started using the cups for my menstrual period, and I started creating a different relationship with my blood, because I never really saw it. I never really, had a direct relationship with it. It was
This
just
is so
like this
true.
thing that showed up, and I had to throw it away.
Yeah.
And I think it's kind of visceral because you're dealing with blood, literally blood,
Yeah.
but it's visceral in a very comforting way. In a way,
Totally.
it's like cozy visceral,
Totally.
you
Totally.
know, almost like you taking care of something that you putting away, you know?
I totally understand what you're saying.
So I really feel that probably that's the path your mind goes when you start like doing an extra step of like
Putting it out there.
putting meaning in a way, you know?
This is so true. Yeah. And that's the thing that tampons and pads like rob
Mm-hmm.
you of is like
Yeah.
your emotional state throughout your period comes like throughout your cycle comes out during your period, right?
Yeah.
Like if you have more clotting than usual or if it looks different, then you've had a
Yeah.
different kind of time during that cycle.
Mm-hmm.
And for so long, the collection methods would have been tampons and pads. And how the fuck
Mm-hmm.
were you supposed to actually see what's going on with your body when that's how you
Yeah.
collect it?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, it's very rough to do that, and also very uncomfortable, to be frank. I know that's kind of rough for everybody, like with some people to adapt to the cups, but honestly, I think it's the best thing you can do.
Same.
It gives you a lot of freedom. I gotta say, like I feel free from it
Totally.
because I don't have to carry around diapers everywhere.
Yeah. Sit in your own blood.
Yeah, and like for my skin is better, for my health is better.
Yeah.
I feel more protected in a way.
Yeah.
That is almost like I'm guarding my body. It doesn't feel
Mm-hmm.
that I'm exposing myself to something that is weird.
Totally. Yeah.
Um, so I really recommend it, but I understand that some people don't adapt to that because there's a lot of things about dealing with your period that can lead to psychological stuff that I don't understand.
What do you mean?
I don't know, like if you were repressed to a point where it's painful for you to have a direct relationship with your period. I understand why it's not a method that it's gonna feel good. I really feel that is a process. Like I don't know, like everybody, in a sense, should go through a process of healing and dealing with their things. But when it doesn't happen, I understand why. That's what I'm saying.
I see.
I understand why someone wouldn't feel comfortable doing that.
Mm-hmm.
Even though I really feel that it's a very revigorating thing to do.
Right. Yeah. I've grown up with a lot of women that have been resistant to even like their vaginas.
Mhm.
Like not wanting to touch it, not wanting to like see it,
Mhm.
which wild to me.
Uh huh.
But like, yeah, I know tons of people that experience pain just putting a tampon in and they prefer pads.
Yeah.
And like I get it, but at the same time it's like, dude, like you're resistant to like
Yeah. You
half of
shutting
yourself.
your eye for something that is literally your life.
It's your entire like and
Yeah.
people do oh my gosh, I have so many friends that like I'm so sorry if any of them watch this, but they they're on birth control
Uh huh.
and they don't think there's anything wrong with hormonal birth control. And bro,
Yeah.
there's something wrong with hormonal birth control. That shit will
Mhm.
like your cycle.
Messes up with everything.
Yeah, people don't realize how much of your moods and
Yeah.
wants and desires throughout your cycle are related to your actual cycle.
Mhm. Totally, totally, totally. And also, I had this. She was not really a friend. It's just like someone I knew from school. She didn't have her period for like at that time for like 5 years, and her mom didn't even know because probably they never had a relationship that allowed for this talk to happen.
Yeah.
But she would buy birth pills, birth control pills, and not have her period because she didn't want to deal with that. And I was like, oh my god, that's so fucking scary. Like how
Damn.
like how? Like at least like my mom always talked about like she always cared the things that you put in your body. So hormones is like one of the biggest ones that influence like a bunch of stuff that we don't even understand. Like it's so much that it's kind of overwhelming to have the whole picture.
Yeah.
She struggled with hormones when she was taking birth control. And that's one thing that we always talked about. Like my family has a history of problems with hormones in that sense. So, it was something that I was aware of.
Right.
But like hearing her story, I was like, oh my God, I hope nothing happens. But you're putting yourself in a risk,
Dude, yes.
and you don't even know. And that's the problem. Like,
They don't educate you on this shit.
yeah,
Dude, like when I got my Moderna, it's not Moderna. Was it
it's Mirena.
Moderna? Mirena, thank you.
Yeah.
Holy shit.
Moderna is
Is
the
the
vaccine.
vaccine. Um, when I got my Mirena, they were like, "Oh, it's perfect. It's good. Like it's a great safe birth control. Like
Hmm.
you will likely stop having your period, which is great." And I was like, "Okay, put it in me."
Uh-huh.
Because I was a young girl that I tried birth control, and birth control, they gave it to me like this. It was like
Uh-huh.
I went in one day and I was like, I want birth control, and they're like, okay, what kind do you want? And they prescribed it, like nothing. It wasn't
No
like
conversation.
no conversation, nothing about the risks.
Yeah.
And with the Mirena, they were like actually encouraging the fact that it would stop my period and I wouldn't have to deal with it.
Mm-hmm.
And so I had that for like years, for probably a couple, maybe 3 years,
Uh-huh.
and it got so bad. I had stopped feeling like my period stopped coming,
Mm-hmm.
and when it stopped coming, I think that's when it hit me like this is not normal.
Yeah.
And I hate, like, they don't talk to you about it. They just prescribe it like candy. They don't talk about
Mm-hmm.
the blood clots, the breast cancer, the like it's outrageous what they're doing to women.
Yeah. Yeah, totally. And I really feel that maybe it's a different experience in Brazil in a way, because like our education in general is a little bit more open. Even like it's socially more about preventing diseases. So
Right.
people are going to talk about it, even though it's not necessarily the reality of everybody.
I see.
Might be a niche thing, but it's not that it's the normal way to deal with it is not talk about it.
Mm-hmm.
The talk is out there somewhere at least. But is like I think when it happens, like when people look for methods to block their period, it's more about a personal relationship than like something encouraged culturally, um and it's really rough. Like I'm not gonna say it's amazing to have it. It's just that you can create a relationship, and it's almost like when you give meaning to something and it becomes like deeper in a sense.
If you can control how you
Yeah, in a way, like if you, I don't know, have depending on the perspective you have about life, like if you have like something meaningful in relationship with the things that you're living, it's probably gonna create a deeper connection with your experience than if you just like ignore it.
yeah.
And I don't know, like I really feel we probably should make peace with the fact that this is like not make peace, but honestly just take responsibility, for the things that are going on, and that destroying a lot of women's lives, and a social relationship in general, if you think about it.
Do you mean in the sense of like what we're being given, or like what exactly do you mean? What are
Like not
you?
talking about it and at the same time just giving poor advices, you
Right,
know.
right, right, right.
And it just feels that everybody is kind of like being blinded from the fact like what it actually is and how it affects your life, you know.
Yeah,
And if you don't have that information, it's kind of tough to make a decision that is informed and that is proper for you.
totally. Yeah, 100%. And what you have is like a bunch of women that weren't educated on it, on birth control, who don't know why they feel so crazy all the time, who
Mm-hmm.
aren't living according to their cycle. So many people I've met, I've asked them if they track their cycles. They're like, no. I'm like, bro, you would learn so much about yourself.
Yeah.
And I think to a point, it's because people don't want to give that much power to something that happens to you every month. They don't want to admit that maybe like a lot of your experiences that are happening in a
Mm-hmm.
month are
Yeah.
because of your cycle.
Mm-hmm.
But that's kind of like the patriarchy we were talking about, where everything
Yeah.
feminine is suppressed. Because
Yeah.
if that's the way that you are, that doesn't mean that this negates your experience. It just means that being a woman
Mm-hmm.
makes you experience life differently. And that's
Yeah.
okay.
Yeah.
It's okay to live by your cycle. It's okay to be like,
Exactly.
like,
Exactly.
yeah.
The way that I think is that your body is the receptor of reality. If your body works in a specific way, it might be different from me and you know, like it's an individual thing. Like everybody has their own sensor and their own filter to reality. I think generalizing things and kind of taking one kind of behavior and one kind of expectation and putting on top of everybody, it could be men and women, like it doesn't help anyone, you know, because it just makes you feel inappropriate. And instead of like dealing with the feelings and the perception you have of reality, you just feel ashamed and hide and try to behave differently in a sense, in a way that's kind of like, you know, just reacting badly, you know, in a very like resentful space, you know.
Yeah.
It sucks.
Yeah. And then people blame you for
Yeah, exactly. Like,
it.
is it my fault?
I didn't have education. I'm doing the best I
Yeah.
can.
And a lot of things that are problems socially, they could be prevented with conversation, you know. And I don't know, like I don't know where society is leading, honestly, because it scares me a little bit. But
No
um
one's having conversations anymore.
yeah, but I don't think they ever did. That's the problem, you know. I
Hmm.
think before it was a very intuitive thing, and then when specific rules came to be the normal expectation for reality and for social behavior, kind of like shadow all the things, you know. I never really like, I don't believe, I think it was more like myths and stories
Rather than
community would
facts.
tell, yeah, younger people and how like life works. I think we lost touch with, you know, narratives that help us
Hmm.
make sense of reality. That's what I'm trying to say. And to have this clear direct conversations, it's so tough because sometimes we don't know it all. Like I don't know, like some things I don't know the answer to.
Yeah.
And it's overwhelming to expect that everybody has the same like base of information to, you know, have a proper conversation about it.
Right.
So I really feel that's the point where myths and stories and narratives help people understand, you know, values and understand experiences and understand their own body or their own way to work in society. And I think that's a little bit what we lost, that has a value that we don't really think about a lot, you know.
I see. Are you talking like myths or like the conversation?
Well, what I mean is more like the myths, like the stories that were made up, that were like example stories, you know, that will kind of give
Yeah.
you a sense of the same way that Greeks would do with their goddess. It's like they have these
Personification.
narratives, this episodes, this you know, things that would happen that would teach about life,
Right.
that you get from and feel like it's almost like a hint, you know. I will give you the example and then you try to figure out like how things work. But I think we lost a lot of
We
that.
totally did.
And the examples we have, they're mostly shit.
Yeah, 100%. It's storytelling. We've lost storytelling.
Yeah, totally.
And the little bit of storytelling we do have is like watered down, politically correct, Hollywood.
Fitted to all in a very superficial sense.
Yeah.
So I really understand, like, in Brazil lately, a lot more people have been searching for religion and searching for God in a sense. And I think it's almost like a reaction to this lack of meaningful narratives about life. Because at least it's not that I'm saying that, okay, look for someone that tells you what to do and how to live your life, but at least it's something to create a relationship that is collective in a sense.
Totally.
Like I have this collective experience of like talking about this stories and about this narratives and these myths that kind of like give me a sense of moral sense, or what is right or what is wrong.
Yeah.
And we can have a very deep and long discussion about like the details of that, but at least it's a conversation. I think the media, like the format, is really valid, and I think churches and places of worship have been gaining a lot more power lately, because people are lacking so much of that at least something like that try to make sense of reality for them. And I really feel that in a more modern way we can create narratives that are big enough, to help people cope with life. But honestly, I think we just try, like, it's almost like it's sterilized, like we deal with the fact, we deal with reality, we have this very proper specific ways to deal with people's issues, but we're not like telling stories, we're not like engaging community. It's just almost like a robotic protocol way to deal with
Totally.
things in general.
Oh, yes, so true. We should have one about religion because bitch, I'm an atheist. But I was raised an atheist. My grandpa's an atheist. My mom's an atheist. I have come from a long line of atheists, and I have been questioning myself lately. I've been like, wow, it feels great when I'm talking to God.
Yeah.
But then I'm like, okay, I'm a human. Whether or not what my conceptualization of afterlife is, if it's there or not, or like what I think God is, I can't deny my biology. And if a bitch wants to worship, I would rather worship God than worship what else would I be worshiping? What everyone else is worshiping, like success and because that's
competition, things like
yeah.
this. Yeah, I totally get that. I think well, it was the different process because like I was raised with no religion, and with no pressure of believing in anything. So I
Same.
went with my own path, to trying to figure it out. And it was a moment of like, makes absolutely no sense that God exists the way people say it is, because like, really?
Yeah.
But at the same time, it doesn't really mean that spirituality is not a thing,
Right. Yeah.
And it doesn't matter if God exists in the way the narratives say it is. I think it's more like like a let's create a character to kind of make sense of the things that we're feeling, instead of being like, okay, God is this and I'm telling you is this, and it exists like perfectly materialistic in this way.
Yeah.
And I had the same thing. Like I felt like talking with God and praying and thanking God helped me feel happier.
Yeah.
And it's not about like religion, and it's not about if it exists or not, it doesn't really matter. I think it's more like a psychological thing of like thinking there is someone that you can talk to that is above everything, like the Sims player, that you can kind of create a relationship with, and it warms you and holds you in a sense. You can be whatever you want in a sense for everybody, because and everyone have their own experience with spirituality and everything. But yeah, I really feel the same way.
Well, what else would you expect? We just had the conversation about how as young women we wanted someone to sit us down and tell us how life worked. In a culture where there's absolutely no storytelling, there's no all of that has died somehow. Like
Yeah.
the only thing that feels a little bit soulful and soft and understanding is just my personal relationship with whatever I think this is.
Yeah, yeah. And I really think it should be more about your feeling towards spirituality and life and bigger, you know, existence
Mm-hmm.
than to be the spirituality that would sometimes see that is about improving yourself or making yourself
Yeah.
a more efficient person, because that sounds catchy, that sounds very capitalistic to me.
It does
To
sometimes.
like, okay, improve yourself because God wants.
Yeah, kill your ego so you can be better at work.
Yeah.
We don't want your problems in the workplace. It costs us money.
Yeah, like it's so weird, and I think it's like leading a lot of people to the wrong direction and creating a lot of problems because of that. And I don't know, like if you sit with yourself and God and talk, it's so simple. It's so simple, and it's so
Dude.
rewarding. Like it just it's making me almost emotional.
Dude, I get emotional when I think about it too. We need an episode purely like on this.
Yeah.
Because I can't believe the shit we're saying right now. This for I've been experiencing this for the past like few months, and the whole time I'm thinking I can't talk to anyone about this.
Yeah.
Because like my
I felt the
whole
same
life,
way.
yeah.
It's like the first time I'm talking with someone.
Shame.
Yeah. You believe in God? Oh my, you.
Yeah. I
Yeah.
swear. Yeah. So we need
Totally.
to have like a proper
Totally.
sit.
Totally. Yeah. And also, like, you read Sophie's World, right?
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
I think that was the final book that made me feel comfortable with God existence. I at the time I was in Brazil with my family and I was reading like a bunch of books. And I don't know, like I have this thing about people from science that appeals to me in a way that is like, if someone has such a objective pursuit to life, in a sense that it's almost poetic because it has imagination, it has, you know, affection, but it's trying to create a narrative, even though it's scientific and blah blah blah. But it's trying to create a narrative about like how the world works, the planet, the universe works.
Yeah.
And that's the kind of conversation that I really enjoy. I enjoy others, but that's one of the ones that I enjoy the most.
Yes, me too.
So if I have Steve Hawking talking about the existence of God, I'm really interested in his perspective.
Yes.
And I read like many declarations about like God existence from like many scientists, many like historians, and many like people that have a very broad understanding of reality.
Like Richard Dawkins. I used to love Richard Dawkins. He'd be like, fuck God. And I'm like, yes.
Yeah, just like coming from like from someone that tried to understand how we existed in history instead of being just like someone with strong opinions.
Yes.
And Sophie's World, every chapter is about philosopher, it's about philosophy movements or something. And there is one chapter is about God specifically, and it's a gathering of like perspective from many philosophers about God and everything. And there was this one, I can't remember who the philosopher were, but he says that if existence, in a way, if connection, like everything being connected and everything coming to existence in that specific way and being so rare that it happened, it's almost like a confirmation that God really exists. It's not that God is this designer that created everything, like a model of and that's playing around with it.
The Sims.
Yeah. But it's something that exists because it exists in our understanding of existence itself.
Yeah, exactly.
It doesn't really matter if it's something that's physical, it's something that exists outside of us, but the fact that it exists inside of us, it's enough to say that it exists. The same way that we say that happiness exists. Like if you take humans away, happiness is not a thing anymore. But it doesn't really mean that because it's in our head and our experience socially in our community and in individual experiences, that is not a thing.
That's so
And
true.
God, in a way, is almost the same thing. Like
Right.
it's a human experience, you know. And I think for me, in a moment, being a human experience is something that we say that we created took away the weight and the value of it, because okay, so it's a made up thing. But if you think about it, it's not. It's something that every mind, in a sense, wanders towards this vast universe that it doesn't really understand and doesn't know really why we're here. And I think dealing with it in almost magically is something that it's common to everybody, because it's a discussion that every community, society,
Ever.
every yeah, like everybody had this conversation, you know.
Yeah.
So it's a human experience, as well as feeling desires, as well as feeling happiness, you know. It's just something that's there, and I just accept this and try to create a good relationship with that inside of me, you know.
I think that's beautiful. That was beautiful.